Yo, Circle 7 medallion on, might have affairs on, might be on the couch with your son getting the air on heights blackout, not profiles for Trayvon, misguided young Moors getting their jail or grave on, basketball and entertainers getting their slave on, no charges, folks get their little boy rape on, false prophets got people worshipping Shaitan, selling souls, loose cipher getting his stake on, rare still blood dripping, not on the apron, shielded the splash sash and Moorish cape on, grand dragon palm clasping master mason, more still but subject of the Moorish nation, more still in our own land, more still in our homeland, more still no Indian treaty with no man, more still on the studies won't fall for your program, more still in our own land, more still in our homeland. More still no Indian treaty with no man. More still on the studies won't fall for your program. They got your birthright like torches, controlling your forces. Turning mosques to churches. Moorish fortress on the hill attracting tourists. How we do this and did this. Sign, seal, prince and witness. My birthrights can't compare to paper terrorists, misfits, pseudo-sovereigns on the dirty, more dipshit, solving their own problems. Dry hang you, magistrate and DA game is the gang bang you. Banging you like black power should be banging the beast. They made a cracker cry or even kissing their feet. Moorish team, Moorish MC, Moorish beats, casting out rapping civil or mortis creeps. I'm rooting for the underdogs, always for meeks, underachievers, non-believers and freaks. Cause believers have no faith when they start a hope. Stay far, or it's them and you on the road. More still in our own land. More still in our homeland. More still no Indian treaty with no man. More still on the studies won't fall for your program. More still in our own land. More still in our homeland. More still no Indian treaty with no man. More still on the studies won't fall for your program. Slaves swinging and swaying for bringing and playing. More's parroting the prophet won't do what he's saying. I never said cause prophet's not dead. Thought of Allah, don't care about your Twitter tweets or Facebook threads. Manifesting virtual, computer turn idol. War cyber, booby trap net, optics fiber. Won't make me follow some Pied Piper. Put me on, won't take me off like dry diapers. Change the world without a bullet, no snipers, no recoil. 5 on the chest stands, Moorish B-boy, Moorish master MC, rapper body caster. Rappers are molded like plasticine, get bodied after. Sent on his white horse to the thereafter. Sent back for more still and stay here after. With no standing, sheep force your landing. More still expanding and hex handing. More still in our own land. More still in our homeland. More still no Indian treaty with no man. More still on the studies won't fall for your program. More still in our own land. More still in our homeland. More still no Indian treaty with no man. More still on the studies won't fall for your program. Yo, Circle 7 medallion on, might have affairs on, might be on the couch with your son getting an air on heights blackout, not profiles for Trayvon, misguided young Moors getting their jail or grave on, basketball and entertainers getting their slave on, no charges, folks get their little boy rape on, false prophets got people worshipping Shaitan, selling souls, loose cipher getting his stake on, rare still blood dripping, not on the apron, shielded the splash sash and Moorish cape on, grand dragon palm clasping master mason, more still but subject of the Moorish nation, more MC sarcophagus open, red hooded cloak soaking of oils essential, glowing from my mental. Some slide with a coward glide out the temple. Arrogant, egotistical, pseudo mysticals. Silence from lips telepathic and graphic. I'm communicating with identified ships, objects flying in zigzag and symmetric patterns. My pyramid core looks like a cavern, spiritual war, reflecting off the raging cauldron water bubbles. No burning wood smell, no heat but cough doubles. No smoke watching broken puddles. Glass flowing, grass growing, foaming smoking nozzles. To minds, my words are fossils, colossal. Dirty Moors appearing as doubting apostles. Glowing lower chakras, fireflies and bottles. Won't give enough light and minds to get me out the darkness. Spirits around me, soul and heartless. All five senses shock watching a walking carcass. Wires poking out from foreheads, glint to answer iPhones. Mouth tubes going through nose to lungs to smoke hydro. I travel so far, chasing a star, dodging comets, zooming past quasars. One time I traveled so far, chasing a star, dodging comets, zooming past quasars. One time I traveled so far, chasing a star, zooming past comets, dodging quasars. One time I traveled so far, chasing a star, zooming past comets, dodging quasars. MC sarcophagus open, from slaves to cyborg psychos, hatchet through the door as rage leaks from pores. Black hole, not vinyl, watching it spiral. Disciple of the archetypal, hip-hop revival. Iron pulses versus suicidal impulses. Bonafide genocide of crucifying vultures. Not absorbing into cultures. Burst out like Gamma Bay. I'm like Alhambra days. My veiled sunglasses are not rapper shades. I'm seeing aliens with locks and turbans, not grays. Floating off the platform, greeting me with Islam gestures. Blue flame corkscrew around scepters. Using a portal as an entrance. Galactic world pendants with some solar flare, double helix necklace. Couldn't believe what I'm seeing. I gotta get this. One time I traveled so far, chasing a star, dodging comets, zooming past quasars. One time I traveled so far, chasing a star, dodging comets, zooming past quasars. One time I traveled so far, chasing a star, zooming past comets, dodging quasars. One time I traveled so far, chasing a star, zooming past comets, dodging quasars.
Peace and love. Moorish American Week. Day number 6, Moorish American Week. To all the Moors worldwide who were just chilling, didn't have anything to do today, and figured, hey, why not, I'll need some attention, watch some Canaanland Moors. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali, for all of the great work that he did to bring us back into the truth about our nationality and birthrights. We were Moors listening to people who didn't want us to be Moors. And then we would not be Moors, then treatments, abuses, and anything that the citizens care to bestow upon you because I'm being Negro. So a prophet came, did his job, we're here, his gun salute. So we don't get BS from Allah because we already know how it goes. Already know how it goes. So put Noble Drew Ali up front. All right, give him his honors. Moorish American Week vision, but to show people where the right is happening and where the misguiding is happening. Our first stop today is addressing the misunderstandings and purpose concerning the Moorish Divine National Movement. And we're starting on page 15. Starting on page 15, Noble Drew Ali founder, Chicago, Illinois, January 18th, 1929. To be proclaimed in every meeting. I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, them to know the truth and the divine truth. I say about me and the movement now, by the same people of our side of the nation, they're a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth, so a foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens. They are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me. They take charge of the situation. Talking about in previous sessions. This is the only sole foundation for all Asiatics. This is why when you go into the literature, Japanese were members of the Moorish Science Temple. There's a 101 questionnaire in Spanish. The 101 questionnaire in Spanish. Why? Moors who speak English? No. For people who recognize what Noble Drew Ali brought that speak Spanish. Because they know that they're Moors. Just go to any of the family in South America. Know that yes, we are the Aboriginal indigenous people. Colonizer says we are. They'll make that known. Turks, all these people were members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Why would they be members of the Moorish Science Temple of America? Because they have a nationality. So the call, the nationality call, bullhorn, and everybody hears the call. People with nationality, they get down with the get down. They're not playing around with games with people, right? I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that contribute to the movement and uplifting funds. Their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. I am calling upon all faithful Moors. I am calling upon all faithful Moors. I'm calling upon all faithful Moors. I thought Moors are different than Moorish Americans. How many times have you heard members of the Moorish Science Temple of America tell you Americans are not Moors, are not Moorish Americans? The letter is to be proclaimed every meeting, which is happening in the Moorish Science Temple of America. The letter say, faithful Moorish Americans, because it doesn't matter. These people are playing divisive games with your birthrights. Who's playing divisive games with your birthrights? Because they're Canaanites. Stupid all they want. Especially African Negroes. Forget everybody else in the world. Especially African Negroes are blackamoors. The dark-skinned people all over the world. But when it comes to dark-skinned Negroes, especially are Moors. He founded the Moorish Science Temple of America and had a 101 questionnaire and told you in the questionnaire, descendants of Moroccans born in America and your nationality is Moorish American. Such a pain in the ass for you being Moorish American. He would have made sure he said Moorish American everywhere. Just like he was a pain in the ass about enforce the Constitution, and that's the only document he ever told you enforce. Constitution, or whether it was national constitution. I've notified all these things to you long ago in the past. Moors that contribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. Calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. Never have I needed finance at present that I may shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The world will not recognize the movement, the prophet being head. It has been proven by my works formed in the last few months, because I was at the governor's inauguration, the Moorish Divine and National Movement, and I will be at the inauguration of President Hoover. Recognize who the Moors are? Those are too. They know who blacks are, who coloreds are. They know who Ethiopians are. But remember, these people in North America that are classified Negroes, especially them, are Moors. They are. Upon reading and analyzing the aforesaid letter, and many other sources of other credible Moorish literature and information, to see the serious internal problems Noble Drew Ali was faced with in the mid to late 1920s. Notice that the date of the letter is 1929. His mission was being undermined and diverted by infiltrators. Changes to reorganize to deal with thieves, traitors, and subversives within the Moorish movement. Comforting and clearly apparent. In social engineering war games, distraction and confusion are common strategy methods used by infiltrators. These are used to interrupt or stagnate the progress and unity-oriented organization. So let's take organization out and let's say a freedom school of thought or frame of mind. That's exactly what they're doing with the Trump and the shithole countries. Why are they coming over here right now? Because just like the monkey shirt, infrastructure and skyscrapers and government and all that stuff, clearly your country's not shithole. So about if your country is not a shithole and somebody says your country is a shithole. Oh yeah, and keep in mind the operatives weren't bleeping out the shithole. They were telling, oh, if you have children, ears or whatever like that, and then they're going through and they're saying shit the whole time through the whole thing. Just because Trump said it. You tell me that's not a distraction? Everybody else, they bleep. How come they're not bleeping his stuff? Because they have to make it look as bad as possible. They have to make it look like he is a racist guy. Because, and then what's even worse, Negroes who aren't even from those places that he's talking about, but they're mad. What are you mad at? He's not even talking about your place. How about you defend the spot where he's shitting right now? Where you live at? Worry about that, the shithole that we're in right now. You're not going to worry about that, but you're going to worry about across the Atlantic or whatever. Those ones and he's talking about them. Stupid people. Distractions. That's all they do. Anything to get you not on your nationality and birthrights. Impossible. Anything possible to make sure that Noble Drew Ali, Moorish Divine National Movement, freedom is not on the front of your mind. Priorities out of order. Right? And subversion. Noble Drew Ali, Moorish movement, had already achieved great economic and political success for the people, half of the people. He had also demonstrated and set patterns for communications with other American national states in the Western Hemisphere. His interest to improve the political and economic conditions of the Moors in the North Continent. Noble Drew Ali became well respected and larger than life to many people at home and abroad. Many people at home and abroad honored him. So if people at home honored him, so much hatred against Noble Drew Ali. And people going so hard to prove to people how our people aren't Moors, but they're everything else. Everything else. So we bring up Moors, oh no, nothing to do with that, Islam, and they start talking about not even relative. Right? And then also too, well, we saw John Henrik Clarke, and he did a lecture on the Arab slave trade, and he told the Moors this and the Moors that. I would quote Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene that said, takes. Because I did my own personal research, and Dr. John Henrik Clarke is talking about is pure emotionalism. The teacher and all that. That all that Arab slave trade stuff that he's talking about, that 80% of that was emotionalism. Remember, he even came around and started telling you about nationality and stuff doesn't matter. Game about Moors. As a reference point that eventually the BS talkers, we're dealing with those people. You know what I mean? How much Moors? 4 or 5 years later, Kudjo, you know, the thing, you know, I proclaim my nationality, and yeah, we actually are Moors. You tell me F me and all that stuff, because no way, we're not Moors and all that. Moors. Sorry for not listening to you. Well, I've been told you back then, just go study and you'll see what it is before it's time. Right? No different than Dr. Kaba himself, sitting on the couch. Professor Larry and the other master teacher, Taj Sharif Bey. And then it just ended up being between them two. Forget Larry, because he's a nobody. Part of the discussion, only when they wanted him to say something. Which most of the time they didn't want him to say nothing, because Dr. Kaba was actually learning. because he doesn't need to verify that something's right. He has enough information in his head that as soon as he hears certain thing, hold on a second. Yeah, never thought about that. Just go back and look at it through the whole thing. Hey, yeah, never thought about that. And then you see the wheels turning in his head or whatever like that. And he's going through all the files that he has in his head about the Moors or whatever. And he's piecing all the stuff together. That now you hear him talk now. Just mention the Moors, you know, talk about the culture, whatever. Now he's telling people, you guys are Moors. Black and all that stuff. Telling them. You think these people get down? No, but they rep him though. You know, they got all his DVDs and they've been to his classes and all that. All these great things are dark-skinned people, but you don't want to be them. When there's a way, it's called declare your Moorish nationality. Said, you're not Negro black colored, you're Moors, because that's your national name. Internationally, that's what the nations of the world know us as, Moors. The pseudo-names that they use or whatever, but we know because we're the ones that engage people that don't look like us. You know, there's some people who look like us or don't look like us, they're the enemy, and you know, they're always trying to do something to them. We go engage these people. And every time we engage these people and we tell them that we're Moors, their eyes go like this, going through the Rolodex in their head or whatever about all the stuff that they see at their great whoever's house with all these fezzes and pictures, and their uncle used to come to the barbecues with the fez on and everybody thought it was masonry and all this type of stuff. They come to the realization that, damn, art. Then you start recognizing that we can't deal with Moors like how we deal with Negroes. Way to deal with them. And that's only happening if you're active and you're in the public as a Moor. If you're caught in some temple or whatever, this does not apply to you. Apply it to yourself because you're about to get injured, because the Moors that are active are studious Moors, and we're willing to put our head on the block for truth. So I have no problem riding the mirror of steel. I ain't worried about the husk. Ain't nothing. So know that there's been a very long campaign to try to keep our people from knowing about Noble Drew Ali, from knowing about Moors, from knowing about their nationality and their birthrights. A reference point from one of the master teachers, Taj Tariq Bey, a philosophical of what this is, not some building and walk inside and rituals and think that you made it because you went into that building. No, this is way bigger than anything that you could think. That Moors are celebrating Moorish American Week. Not a day, a week. Why? Because I'm European? No, because this is our culture. This is what we do as Moors. January 15th, that's just what it is. This is our culture. And what Drew Ali tell the Moors? Oh, you're a temple? Oh, well, you're right. Make your own customs, cultures, or whatever like that. Principles and in line with the prophet, whatever, then yeah, do your thing. Did that. Took it on themselves just to do something, whatever, for Noble Drew Ali, for the prophet. Who got these buildings or whatever that claim Noble Drew Ali, they're down with the prophet, but then they're master teachers like Taj Tariq Bey, who has written more books, Moorish movement, Noble Drew Ali, than any one of these grand sheiks out here that claim that they've been running the temple and deal with Noble Drew Ali. Half these people haven't even wrote one book. You're going to get it and realize that these people are full of BS. They don't know what they're talking about. You realize you wasted your fiat. You could have went to RV Bay and got for how much you paid for that one piece of BS book that this so-called representative of Moorish Science Temple wrote. These people, they did their best, right? Messing with. It completely just, they were just absent-minded. They were messing with. They really didn't comprehend after Noble Drew Ali died and they started playing their own little whatever. This is what Noble Drew Ali brought. Rope that Noble Drew Ali gave them after he died, using to hang these people in this time. Because we have the FBI files, we have all the information to know. And subversion's been running this thing called Moorish Science Temple. And this is not about dissing Moorish Science Temple, because once again, I'm a grand sheik of a temple, owner of a temple. I'm a divine minister of a temple. So I have the info to know that not everybody who says they're Moorish Science Temple are Moorish Science Temple. Subversion to create division, fusion, fallen humanity. And looks at the thing that's their only salvation as confusion. You think these people are going to be saved? And then you wonder how come and states burning to the ground and stuff like that. You think it's not because of these Negroes following other Negroes getting with the program, having a mind. So not only are they acting like Negroes, things, mentality of Negroes, crab in the bucket and all that BS, like they're crabs and they're in a bucket. Movement was targeted or disruption by many of the jealous, opposing, and deviant Europeans monopolizing the United States government, by infiltrators, any peripheral and complaining church leaders and preachers, also unfairly slandered and set upon by others holding positions of power in the country. Time, science were springing up in almost every state in the nation, and power waking people of all walks of life. Calvin Coolidge, a European, was president of the United States at that period of time, serving a term from 1923 to 1929. Then Herbert Hoover, a European, succeeded Calvin Coolidge and served from 1929 to 1933. The records also show that people, mainly Moors, learning that they were not Negro, Black, colored folks, and living in the depressed communities, were leaving the churches in large numbers. The inspired state of mind of the common people began to change positively toward realizing thoughts of self-authority and of birthrights. Evidence was not the norm in the low-class communities and was not intended to be by the edicts of the selfish rulers. The awakened Moors began displaying a diligent and studious capacity to absorb knowledge, directed toward the truths and benefits of learning about national consciousness. The revolution took on a life of its own. Rome was not going to sit by and allow their colonial powers to be questioned or exposed for the thieves and extortioners that they are. Overseers and other profiteering agents of blind faith and pilferage placed in jeopardy. Color of law controls were coming into question by the common people due to the Moorish movement's growing influence. Movement founded by Noble Drew Ali was getting the people self-authoritative mindset. Think about John Africa, Move 9 and all that. Recognizing that South Africa, not American. American riding with American instead of Africa, it wouldn't have went down how it went down. Because even that they were on was an Aboriginal and Indigenous name. You're African. Saying you're African, go back to Africa then. Oh, well, more science, you're in Africa if you're over here. Africa over here, people do what they did to them. Oh, because they had John on there, and Nancy on there, and Grace, and Shelley, and all these European names with Africa attached to it, which still gave these people jurisdiction. It is that they want. And what did Noble Drew Ali say? The citizens care to bestow on you. You're going to take. Our natural citizens doesn't matter. Because in a dead status, you're below them. You're even below a corporate citizen. Yes. Even a corporate citizen has more status than a Negro or African American. Which is why they use the corporate status and the corporate jurisdiction and their free national name out there for you to know how to find them and sue them personally. They're going to make you think that the white man did something. Oh yeah, you know, the government is abusing us or whatever. That's corporation. What government's abusing somebody? As soon as you call them government, you just show your incompetence. Studying and know that there is a difference. Big difference in corporations. You know, you're going into McDonald's with your free coffee card talking about you're a member of McDonald's. Anything. Coffee that they're serving you. Guys, you ever burn one of those? Flame to a McDonald's fry to see what happens? Just get a McDonald's fry and put flame to it. a favor to eat McDonald's or Popeyes or FC, whatever. Buy a meal, put it on a plate, and just leave it open. To it. Same thing with when you say that you're a member of a corporation, you're a citizen of a body politic that some Europeans created, sanctioned. Served. You become the goods. You become the dead things that they're going to package and sell. Peel your organs or whatever it is that they want to do. Difference. And the only way that you're going to know the difference is if you study. Talking BS all you want. A letter tomorrow, debtor's prison because you owe $5 on a bank account. See what you're going to do. We'll see. Deal with that. When all these start calling in their loans, sending out their little people to come pick up their property, we'll see how you deal with that. You've been played for the past that you've been in existence. People who you call leaders have been calling these people white man, have been calling these people American, okay, all this BS and never identifying the parties. Party, then they got to identify themselves, and they can't do that. Black. They're African. Ancestors, but European soup to a tribunal. Ancestors. After the tribunal, they got the kente on and all that stuff. Like, yeah, we get. But in there, forget that kente stuff. Overseer. Keep the people docile. Hey, good job. We're actually going to give you your license. Good job. At keeping these, forget about you got them off of Ritalin and whatever like that. They're still black. They're still on Ritalin. They're still ADHD, AD, PQRS. Just because keep playing this black stuff. You're African, but your people are black. For the lecturers, they're African, but all I hear you talk about is help black boys and black girls and all that stuff. Well, these are two different jurisdictions. So if you're saying you're African, Africans or African blacks or whatever, when you even call yourself that, genetically, when we do our research, we found out that Africa is synonymous with Moor. Again, prove that you're not a Moor. Especially after finding out that, you know, Hidden Colors is about Moors, and then saying, well, I don't have nothing to do with that. I'm African. Moors are in it, so I'm going to go in it, and we're going to talk about the Moors. And then all these dummies out here seen Hidden Colors 1, 2, 3, 4, that after Hidden Color 1, they stopped talking about Moors. There's logo on the stuff. And these people aren't playing it. Because trust me, they know. That's why their app is called Morris. That's why they have Moorish whatever colors BS. All their stuff that they deal with is Moorish. They're Negroes. They call people black, but that they're pumping on the world is under a Moorish brand name. exactly what they're doing. They're doing. Only you can save yourself. There's nobody out here that's going to save you. Why? Because there's no asylum in other countries. You're from over here. So either your brother's going to put you on some game, your brother's going to rape you. This is why, like, when you look at the Moors historically, kidnapping Europeans and all that stuff, right? Everybody was full of the Moors in peace and harmony. Of exercise, your whatever. Open. The kind-heartedness of the Moors teach people how to read and have universities for them to go to for free. They aren't paying for that. How you paid for it was your degree. You have to do the time it takes to learn everything. Finance, but at this school, if you enter, you're going to be here for either for 30 years or 40 years or for life. And, you know, we'll teach you whatever you want to know. And stuff like that when the Moors had schools. Everybody's familiar. Everybody's had some type of interaction with. That time is coming back around again. Is looking and they can't see Moors. All they're seeing is Negroes, blacks, coloreds. Oh, that's all they see. Put on TV, Negroes. Occasionally, they might see a Moor. They see a Moor is like a breath of fresh air. They're running up hugging Moors. Literally running up hugging Moors when they see Moors. This has got their turban, people bowing in the street to sisters that they got turban on and they know that they're Moors. Bowing. They're in step, bowing to them. This is stuff that's happened. Of the impact that the Moors have had. The impact the Moors had on the world has people supremely honoring, having nothing to do with this, want nothing to do with this. And again, we bring up Noble Drew Leo, then they definitely want nothing to do with it because, you know, he learned from Levi Dowling and he stole the Aquarian gospel. And why is he dressed like that? We're not Indians. Those are, you know, they don't have melanin like us and their hair straight and their nose straight and they're not our brothers. These people have lost their mind. Disconnected from their Moorish ancestors. The Moorish ancestors, them about in all their stuff, right? The rediscovery of Black nationalism. This is the rediscovery of Black nationalism, right? Chapter 5, the Nation of Islam. was Harvey. Remember, self-determination. Self-determination. Original and indigenous customs. Original indigenous customs. That's why it's in the UN declarations of rights of indigenous people, the right to self-determination. That's not African, because they're over here. So don't tell me that that's African. That's Aboriginal and indigenous to over here. It's like they say, oh yeah, the slaves brought that from Africa over here. No, they didn't. And they were Aboriginal indigenous people. That's how they knew Arabic. That's how they knew how to speak certain language. That's how they knew, don't worry about slave master not giving us food or whatever. We're going to go in the bushes over there, and we found some grapes or whatever, that those grapes, body. Because one grape is like a meal. Where they learn that from? They brought here? All right. Chapter 5, the Nation of Islam. The legendary origins of this movement are fantasy. It seems to have its roots back to Islam movement founded by a native of North Carolina, Timothy Drew, to Noble Drew Ali. From his picture, a tall, slender, dark Negro of a dreamer, dressed in dark trousers, dark shoes, a sash, collar, and necktie, speaking to small groups of Negroes on street corners and in basements or empty lots. In 1913 or thereabouts, at the age of 27, Moorish American Science Temple, where he is said to have worked as an expressman. And a half, other temples were opened in Pittsburgh, Detroit, Chicago, and elsewhere. He's back to Africaism and Drew Ali's back to Islamism flourished at about the same time, though the former at its height more people than the latter. With little formal education, Drew Ali hit on the idea Negroes could achieve salvation simply by making themselves into Asiatics, into Moors or Moorish Americans whose ancestors had come from Morocco. These Moorish Americans were descendants of the ancient Moabites, who had inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. He believed the region east of the Dead Sea. He gave membership cards to those who joined his cult that they were Muslims under the divine laws of the Holy Quran of Mecca. 64-page Holy Quran, only the title was the same as the sacred book of the Islamic religion, which his devotees were enjoined to guard as a secret. Noble Drew Ali was a prophet ordained by Allah. Jesus, Buddha, subordinate leaders were generally known as sheikhs. A change of name was apparently white Europeans had subjugated the Moorish Americans was olive, not black, by calling them Negroes, colored, black, or Ethiopian. By casting off these names in favor of Moorish Americans, true identity and freedom. Thus, Drew Ali proved American Negroes with a new national origin, part of a far-flung Moorish nation that had somehow made its way to North America. Was the key to Drew Ali's teachings and influence. God, he preached, you must have a nationality. His name by suggesting that Garvey was to him, this was to Christ. Unlike Garvey, he did not tell his followers to leave the United States or to found an independent state. When the Garvey movement ran into trouble in the mid-20s, Juali warned all his Moors to cease from all radical and agitating speeches and to leave the Europeans alone in order not to cause confusion. Juali's immigrationism was logical. It was enough for American Negroes to identify with an Islamic African nation, if only in name. Thereafter, had to wait for the inevitable destruction of European rule, of which the sign would be a star within a crescent moon. Meanwhile, citizens of the United States and pledge allegiance to its flag. Juali was also something of a practical man for all his appearance. One of his sidelines was a profitable business, Moorish healing oil, a bath compound for human ailments. Chicago became Juali's main stronghold. As Garveyism declined, it grew large enough to be worth fighting over. In 1929, Juali's supreme leadership was challenged by Sheikh Claude Green, a small-time politician and former butler of the philanthropist Julius Rosenwald. In the struggle between their factions, stabbed to death on March 1929, and charged with the killing. Released on bond, he died a few weeks later mysteriously. Split amongst themselves with his own temple. Science, the only form of psychological emigrationism. As early as 1900, it is said, traveled through the Carolinas, that the so-called American Negroes were really the lost sheep of Israel. 15, at the same time Juali's cult was moving, the first Black Jewish or Black Hebrew congregation was organized by F.S. Cherry, a dark brown ex-seaman railway employee who was also a member of Moorish Science Temple prior to him doing his Hebrew BS. He was born somewhere and claimed that once in his travels land, the Lord had approached him in a vision and had touched him. Lord is Noble Juali. Thus appointed a prophet to America and directed to establish the Church of God as it was officially known in Philadelphia. Also self-educated, he picked up some Yiddish and Hebrew and impressed his followers by quoting from the Talmud Bible. The Lord also thoughtfully gave Prophet Cherry the right to profanity, which he liked to use. Of Black Jews, numbering about 1,000, is now in Harlem. Lord Brotz, B-R-O-T-Z, who has studied them, that they really derive from the Ethiopian Hebrews or Falashas, and that slavery robbed them of their identity. They are as little related to the traditional Jews services as the Black Muslims are to the traditional. The important thing seems to be in both cases, origin, neither American nor African, Christian. Psychological immigrationism or Black Jewish type to reject the status of being an American Negro, a pro-white orientation. Black Jews, this is achieved by identifying with the biblical patriarchs, Black. Its substitute, nationalism, assumes a purely spiritual or religious form, about which nothing more needs to be done because Allah or the Messiah will take care of its fulfillment Most likely, however, it serves much the same purpose as a more mundane nationalism. A more mundane nationalism, right? Compared to the Hebrews were in nationalism. And then they have a 1967, Black Jews emigrated to Liberia, of whom 86 were left in 1969. Amin, formerly Ben Carter of Chicago, and hoped to make their way to Israel. 39 emigrated to Israel at the end of 1969. Fraud guys that we were telling you about yesterday, that they're going to back some Israel, their vast estate, the Moroccan Empire, their family with the Moors, they're our stepbrother. Why are they pretending like there's no relation? Check the record. All the African cultures, it was women that was ruling. Boaz doesn't have his own book. How come he's in Ruth's book? Because, sure, Moabites, Canaanites. It's not about these modern people. These modern people are nobody. The modern people, if they're not tied to their foremothers and forefathers, in any case, the Islamic line of Black nationalism, Noble Drew Ali, and then it goes into the NOI BS. They're talking all that black stuff. Only place that more is mentioned in the book of 200 pages, chapter 5, not a Moorish Science Temple of America chapter, the chapter of Nation of Islam, told you in there. Islamic whatever in America was what Noble Drew Ali brought. Forget Ahmadiyya movement and all that other stuff that people are talking about, because they're not from here. So they don't got jurisdiction like that to make claims that they're the whatever. Only indigenous could do that. Only. Addressing the misunderstanding of subjective and strategic use is for all active Moors to glean through the limited and redacted records made available by the Federal Bureau of Investigation under the Freedom of Information Act. Really set in at this point, negative intent with a trail of betrayals and untoward actions among people of our side of the nation comes to fore. Trusted persons use their compromised positions to rob, to steal from, and to undermine the movement. Easily discerned and recognized, and was expressed in Noble Drew Ali's additional laws as placed in the back of the questionnaire. Are a few of those recognizable contrary acts or actions derivative of the above said patterns and acts rooted in negative intent. Negative intent strategies. 1. Attempts made by some at neutralizing the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, addressing the exposure of his pleas, oral statements, and literature in general were all directed to all loyal, faithful Moors and made universal to people at large. 2. Injected divisions and schisms among Moorish Americans that became apparent during the sellout period and that are still presently existing among some Moorish holy temples of science, of America, etc., and within other areas of the Moorish divine and national movement branch institutions. Laws claim that Moors should not vote elections qualified under the Constitution, being in Republican form of government, Moors being in the proper person status. 4. Moors are not to be active in civics, the science of government. False claims made by some Moors, made by some not to study or act upon the national constitution of the United States Republic North America, Constitution as being a document adopted from ancient Moorish law and prepared for all free national beings. And Moors who claim that they are whoever's of the Moorish Science Temple and they are grand whatever. Constitutionally challenge them immediately before you get to know their name or whatever. Ask them, do you enforce the Constitution for these United States? Tell me about divine constitution and bylaws or statute and the Act, Canada Constitution Act and all that stuff. Instead of telling you about the national constitution, know that these are the strategists. The false claim made by some that Moors are not part and parcel of this said government, i.e. the principled governance of the organic United States Republic of North America. Present lack of refined civic instruction, and a lack of teachings about the social and political effects concerning the legal status truths and the suppression, nationality and birthrights issues, etc. Of recorded documents, accountability to the Moorish Americans, action of, and the accountability to the people for compensation and spending of the people's collected finances, dues, of Moorish schools. The purposefully is critical analysis and vital truths about the legal and lawful implications concerning the alterations of the words originally contained in the contract or document, deleting or altering words in or from any established constitution or lawful or legal document should be taken. Constitution and bylaws document, the Temple of Science as originally presented to the Moors by Noble Juali, by someone within the movement during the time when Noble Juali was in the midst of institutional subversive pressures, with foul violations made against the Prophet earlier. These issues are not discussed among the Moorish American citizens and temple membership. Intentional confusion came from persons in the Moorish movement as well. For every negative, there is also a positive. Numerous loyal and honorable Moorish American citizens and members, and have always been working hard, staying true to the cause, and heroines dedicated their lives, time, and finances to active enterprises in order to put these ongoing problems in check. Moors have continued with loyal intent their time and support misdirection problems years. Their work and dedication has been and is and appreciated. They will be remembered in future history. End. Of these honorable Moors record is the brother Emili L. Sheikh after Noble Drew Ali transition. He had some letters that, again, he called out these people, all these frauds, called them out, so you know exactly who it is that they are. They got him out of the way. All right? Temples. These are critical moments, and all Muslims are required to follow instructions. The life of our Prophet, but there that he said he couldn't tell, but we would know after a while. Will guide you. Now, of course, the Prophet's laws are all right. He couldn't write or put in book form, so someone had to tell you. Now some are going to believe it and some are not. Let me say to you as a brother, we love Israel. Please don't be hard-headed. Last night, we were told not to eat meat, but to eat anything in the fish line with scales on it. Cat and eel. Eat fish and vegetables, etc. But no meat of any kind or any strong drinks until further notice. Of these things until you hear from the grand body. Peace, your brother Emilio. To brother A.H. Payne L., Supreme Business Manager. I am reading your letter to brother Thompson L. a few minutes ago. Wishes of our Prophet as laid down in his laws to me by himself. Your attention that it was his will that we hold the coming convention of 1929, the 15th to the 20th of the same month. Is only that the date which was made by the Prophet be considered as law with me. Also, that he said, as long as you do what I tell you, you will be all right. Obey my orders, you will have trouble. Having talked the matter over with all the governors, I find them in favor of supporting the date of the convention as laid down by our Prophet. Manager, I am asking you way to the time of the Prophet's choice and arrange your dates accordingly, which begins September 15th to September 20th inclusive. Give them more time for preparation of the same. We must all we can for peace. Advance may manifest itself in all of our actions. This done, all also is well. Your approval, I am your brother in Islam, Emili El Supreme Grand Sheikh. Foresters Hall, 44th and State Street, September 26, 1930. Islam, Brother C. Kirkman Bey, you that the above named organization, Moorish Science Temple of America, September 15th to 20th, rescinded by voting out the mistake made by the second annual convention of 1929. You hold your membership role as when our Prophet was here, and we hope you will still cooperate with the organization under the 5 principles, that you will comply with this notice accordingly, as there is but one Supreme Grand Advisor in the Moorish Science Temple of America, that being Noble Drew Ali. Attempting to be, from now on, is assuming authority of himself the penalties of the law. Peace. Moorish Science Temple of America, Chairman, Noble Drew Ali, founder. So honors to Brother Emilio to try to, while these pigpen L's and Bays were trying to, everything that Noble Drew Ali laid down for you, for Moors, and you're forgetting that, you're completely forgetting that for the generations that were coming later, he didn't present what he had for the Moors that were around him. Moors that are here today. This is why when we go past, you know, the Taj Street Bays, RV Bays, etc., right? You know, the people who were these people, you know, we go to the Hannibals, we go to the Mizrahims, the L's and Bays, to this information, name their children El and Bay and all that. Is with this, right? With this was immediate implementation, right? Immediate implementation. You feel me? We spoke last night, and there were some slides from the lecture for Drew Ali Day. He didn't get to go on because of our time that day, right? We're gonna put a little out, you know what I mean? We're gonna put a little out just since we have the ability to just share screen stuff going on here. We're just gonna do our little music intermission, and return moment. I'll return. It won't be long, don't worry. But we'll give you some oh, Islam to Sons of Allah. KGPBs. KGPBs. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. Mind elevation. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I know it's a lot to digest, but that doesn't mean you should digress. Stay on the studies, knowledge is power. As man thinketh, so is he. Be a lot in man, G-O-D. Generator, operator, destroyer. Hold up, give it a chance before you throw in the towel and call it quits.
take time to think what the Prophet Drew Ali did. He bankrupted the U.S so you could be free. Brought back El-Bay, Al-Day, and Ali. He brought back civilization, found his mainframe. Not only in appearance, but an abstract strain. Brought back the constitutional folder game. I know pigs got guns, just maintain. Put the guns down. Have you lost your brain? They got nukes, tanks, and drone bomber planes. Yeah, black power, but RBG are Moroccan flag colors. Can't you see? I know your sight is going, but you're not blind yet. It's all in your mind anyway, so don't mind threats. Life is too short. Not talking to rap pimp, calling yourself nigga when that's a chimp. Cave dweller, hey fella, a monkey is who you think you are, you stupid junkie. High off ignorance and ignorance. From sheets warning you of King Alfred plans. It's not about being in courts, but make them hear you. Declare your nationality, don't let them scare you.
Till the time is wasted, I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted, I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted, I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted, I use the mind elevation.
50 posts a day of brutality on Facebook. I know it's a lot, I still say study law books. Cause uniform pigs, wolves with badges creep. Ready to sink teeth in cause you act like sheep. Passive and docile, meaning a shepherd. And the one you choose got rules with cross check it. Compass and square sigils with a G in the middle. Have masses follow them like he's playing a fiddle. Have masses follow them cause masses scared shitless. Stay witless but post the world star when they bear witness. Always waiting for the rights from civil strictness. All your black leaders are on King Alfred hit list. Dirty Moors smelling like they got shit did. Picture for Aquarian age, make them switch hit. Like when I found 2 ounces and did a quick flip. From black to Moorish American, give devil split lips. Men walking with slit pupils and lipless. Talking my language like this is Genesis. I used to be one of society's menaces. Acting devilish makes me shake my head every time I reminisce about the past. Living fast at night, no days. Full ahead of ways and low flow days. I know those days won't be coming back again. Change is good, but I still beg no friends.
Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Use the mind elevation.
Control knowledge, taught to them by overseers from Masters College. 5 G's a year, I call that robbery and racketeering. Mental slave boats got mine stacked to the ceiling with info and data. Too many more haters. Dissing the Moors birthright is dissing yours, player. Conscious schools chasing MCA fiat paper, not to be mean, but pyramid schemes for later. Grabbing at your attention like Aaron, don't care. Looking at a computer screen with a dead blank stare. I'm the Moorish MC, no prank. Here, if you're too pumped, if you scared to die, you better throw in the towel. A lot of black African groups, movements are bow well. They say Moors, but they talking black shit. That's still brown. I think your brains in backwards. Common sense broke his neck from a backflip. Some knowledge people get is like a crack epidemic. Nothing but denial. When I call up a Moor, they don't even watch the German Moors class with Moor and Bay. Didn't watch Moorish connection to hip hop. NBA nigga slaves got youths in flip flops and minus degrees, like he's Bosch in Miami Beach. So hungry with money and fronts in his teeth. Of lab weed or chemicals he always reeks. Not saved by the bell, punk or rap and screech. MC Captain teach, the same boys on Backstreet. Get in the booth, run through beats like track meets. I call me a KTS and calling out as witness. Moorish MC, when I rap I spit gifts. Rapping blood clot dummies are on my hit list. Blowing through the air, no kush, just natural mystics. I stay lawful, they want me legalistic. I'm on the corner schooling young gods you call mystics.
Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Time is wasted. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation.
KGP Beats.
Moors. So we had about 90 something slides for the Juali Day presentation. We didn't get to get through all of those bad boys. So we're gonna see if we could do this up. So he's the Cam doing his stuff. You know, analyzed it a little bit. Right? Realize what he's dealing with. You know, now we can see that it's really one love that it says. One. Right? You got the feather on there and all that. The hell? We're trying again. So let's see now. You just give me 1 second. So we dealt with that. One sec, Mars. All right. Hope you read that. We dealt with that one. So what we were dealing with was on the day we were dealing with the man with the Juali mustache and, you know, this Adolf Hitler individual, and, you know, was he, what, you know, was he really how they were portraying? So we had this article about Wall Street in panic, and we also had the reason why there was the panic. But we'll go a little further because we have the book right here. Montauk Book of the Dead by Peter Moon. So again, we're dealing with Juali recognizing what he did and then going ahead to see what it was that Hitler was doing and why was he going about the level that he went about it. Why was he doing it? How he did it, right? And again, based in this idea or ideal. When the Moorish science reached its peak in 1929, it was on the heels of one of the greatest discoveries Juali ever made. In 1928, Ali attended a Pan-American conference in Havana, Cuba, got recognition from a host of other countries. They were, of course, recognizing his sovereign status as a Moorish national, who was representing the ancient empire of Amexem, that other countries had no reason to fear Drew Ali or what he represented, right? For all the Moors that have to, tribunals or you're dealing with people as far as putting them onto this information and them having this, so that's ISIS and that's terrorists or whatever, this mentality. The terrorists that are in their face every day, giving them tickets, right? Recognize that no nation had reason to fear Noble Drew Ali or what he represented. What did he represent? He represented the ancient empire of the Moors, which everybody in humanity lived under in peace, even Europeans. It was at this conference, however, that he received a document, Face of Moorish Science Forever, and would eventually lead to what is known as the Great Schism. That is the name the Moorish community uses to refer to the dispersal of Moorish science into different groups. Received was a copy of a mandate whereby the Amexem Empire extended a land grant of the entire Western Hemisphere to certain Europeans. The document and its exact contents are highly mysterious, yet its ramifications literally turned the United States of America upside down, released America to a certain party for a particular number of years, not unlike the way Hong Kong to Great Britain. The lease was up in 2004. It is entirely reasonable to believe that such a document, if it still exists, is a mere relic of a long forgotten era that has no significant meaning in today's legal system. That would be fine except for one very important point. If you have truly studied the detailed legal history of the United States of America, you would understand then a little truth to the prospect of there being such a document. Why? The entire legal history of the United States is predicated on such a proposition. Notice how the word Amexem contains the root of the word Mexico. Mexico is named after Mexitis, I-T-I-S, which translates to moonchild or the moon's umbilical cord. What is known is that Secretary of State Hughes from the US government attended the Pan-American Conference of this mandate. So were several other heads of state. A closed-door conference between several nations was held in Geneva, Switzerland, and a labyrinth series of discussions and negotiations began. Conferences went on for some 5 years, but the records are still kept sealed to this very day. Several international banks called in their loans as a result of this potential legal threat, and the stock market crashed in 1929, hence the article we have up. Several countries, which included the United States, Portugal, France, and Spain, declared bankruptcy. Relevant powers could buffer themselves from any potential legal claims. Wake up. The legal claim that the Moors are making is that we were prisoners of war to these people who are in our land right now, pretending to be some type of authority, pretending that some treaty of Tordesillas or whatever gave them jurisdiction over here, that some papal bull gave them jurisdiction, that some fictional manifest destiny, whatever, gave them jurisdiction over here. Everything was done, which is why the stock market crashed. Not was going to crash or about to crash, crashed. Back, and it was time for Europeans, the colonists, to go home. Franklin Roosevelt was part and parcel of the entire plan when he abolished the gold standard and created the New Deal. were then issued in place of gold-backed currency. Was used on the back of the notes. People behind the Geneva conferences were so concerned about any potential boomerangs from the Moorish issue that they began a full-barreled character assassination of Moorish heritage. The most flagrant example of this, Master Masons put together the infamous Anus and Andy show, nationally syndicated radio show in history. It was deliberately designed to spoof the Moorish Science Temple by lampooning them as the mystic order of the Knights of the Sea. Referred to them as sardines. From one perspective, as hysterically funny, especially when you consider the dignitaries were given titles such as swordfish and kingfish. On the other hand, it was a deliberate and malicious act of intent designed to portray any Moor as the most laughable example of what could be termed the lowest common denominator. Amos and Andy had its national debut. Drew Ali was arrested and mysteriously died. This has been ignored by both history and conspiracy books. When you see how integrally connected the Moors are to the history of the world, it states, you see that they are a guidepost to the true history of the planet. Lamp of illumination, the hermit's lamp from the tarot, and the secret societies have long paid tribute to in their writings. By reason of our social conditioning, it seems utterly preposterous the Moorish Empire could have an actual court of law legal claim on this country. Conversely, it appears that world leaders are afraid of such and have been prepared themselves to legally avoid the inevitable. The Moors show themselves to be hardwired into the infrastructure of our consciousness as well as the historical European, dropping it harder than these Moors in Moorish Science Temple of America that claim to be grand whatever. In it, right? This was the list of United States citizens and the record there. So there's Charles Bay right there. And there's Noble Drew Ali. Right? Talking about sailing from Havana, Cuba. Arriving in, I think that's Newport or New York or whatever. Or does that say Key West? I think that says Key West. We dealt with this one. We'll read this one again. Brother Lomax Bey, who turned into Muhammad Ezzaldin, founder of the Universal Arabic BS. Dear brother, be very careful of propaganda and news that you hear. There is a certain movement from the churches to destroy our movement and dishonor me. Paid both Europeans and Asiatics, and any outside letter that you receive, let me know the message. Then I will know that you are a Moor, and I favor Moors. Oh, he said, oh, he knows that he's a Moor. You didn't say Moorish American? Oh, how come he said Moor and not Moorish American? Both of them are the same damn thing. And anybody telling you that you're Moorish American, you're not Moor, is directly violating you. Because Noble Drew Ali said that we Moors must stand in unit. So he's calling himself a Moor. We Moors, not we Moorish Americans, we Moors must stand in unit. Right? And remember, keep in mind with this thing about both Europeans and Asiatics and any outside letter that you receive, let me know. That was the issue. Or that was mastered by the time the 60s with the infiltration of the Black Panther Party, because that's how they got rid of them. By sending a letter to somebody, CIA, addressed like it's from the Black Panther Party, somebody else getting a letter thinking that it's when it's really infiltration. And then these two parties who got the letters never called each other to say, hey, you sent me this letter. I just wanted to know what's going on. How come you sent me this letter? They acted on the letter that was sent. The Moors, if you get any letters, outside letters, make sure you come back and let me know, because I'm the prophet. Trust me, who should be and who shouldn't be sending people letters. Right? We Moors must stand in unity. We stand together according to deeds and actions and not by words of lips. For all those loud talker people, talk loud, you don't say that's how they are and that stuff. They're not really they're not going against who they are. That's really who they are. Well, it's interesting. A loudmouth naturally. How come when Azim Hopkins Bey was on your stuff, you were quiet like a church mouse? Stuff. You were docile. You shut your words of lips when your head of whoever comes around. Or flapping your gums, talking crazy. This letter is to be read to the temple. February is my birthday and will be our Christmas. And all presents are to be sent on that day. I look forward to all faithful Moors. Oh, again, he said Moors, not Moorish Americans? Interesting. Faithful Moors to send me a present on that day, no matter how small or large. Let it be finance or domestic. It is a law of Allah and not mine, as I am only his son, one of his sons. We are under the crescent and star, the same as other prophets have been under the same. Love to all. Peace, Noble Juali. Islamic Society of America, 1943. You see them dressed up. Keep in mind, right? Remember, look at that, right? Uniting Islamic Society of America. Here, look in the background, look at the flag in the back. But this is Universal Arabic Association. Well, how does the Universal Arabic Association, the Uniting Islamic Society, have the same flag? Who they trying to play? Who they trying to fool? Lomax Bey, if he knows that the real flag is the Moroccan flag, and he gave people this fake stuff, tell them that that's a flag, what does that do to them divinely? Disconnects them from their ancient foremothers and forefathers. The term Holodomor, the Moor, refers specifically to the brutal artificial imposed by Stalin's regime on Soviet Ukraine, and primarily ethnically Ukrainian areas in the northern Caucasus, 1932 to 33. Right? I'm hearing some stuff is going bonkers. Now, let's see what's going on here. What's going on here? Let's do it this way. All right, so we'll do it this way then. I had it on full screen, and I guess I can't go through it that way. So we have to do it this way. Holodomor. Ukraine. Now keep in mind, before we go too deep, let's get the perspective again. Brother Sheldon L. did his research, being that he's in that side of the world, came up to some interesting information. All right, we'll go over this again. We already put it in the thing, but we'll go over it again. Germany was the only one of the major empires. The Kaiser government was an empire that also encompassed modern-day Austria, wanted to be honorable and keep the Treaty of Madrid 1880. And they knew that Spain and France, they knew what Spain and France were trying to do. And this is why in 1890, they sent warships to the shore of Morocco, and show Spain and France that Germany was not playing. This is what 10 years of secret diplomacy was about. 1880 to 1890. This turmoil is ultimately what led to World War I. So there's been the campaign to try and get Germany away from the people. Bury the people's perspective, right? And in burying the people's perspective, take over. Because like we were saying before, getting the mind away from the reality. Once you get the mind away from the reality, then it's easier to control the body. We dealt with this talking about the German emperor being forced to abdicate, and that like it's the Jews, so-called Jews, the Ashkenazis, the Polish, German Jews that were in land that they shouldn't have been in, is who really, right? Down in the bottom, however perverted this thinking and outrageous his theories though, and whatever personal experience he did have that may have turned him against the Jews, Hitler was supported at every level of German society by people who were ready to see their country return to greatness. They felt had been denied it, that it was the Jews who were responsible for that fall from grace. So this is not something that just came about because of him being in power or whatever. Pre-Hitler, these people were dealing with this issue of the so-called Jews taking over their stuff, right? Which they're saying, well, hey, we had stuff going on here before you people. Why is it that we can't exercise our stuff? Why is it that you are trying to take over or control? In Christianity, neither morality nor religion come into contact with reality at any point. German philosopher, poet, philologist, Latin and Greek scholar, whose work has exerted a profound influence on Western philosophy and modern intellectual history. Coming to the realization that Islam is really what's going to save the world, Europeans. And remember that anytime you're talking about Islam during the time of the Moors, we're not talking some Shiite Sunni go do Salat 5 times and all that. We're talking about mysticism, Sufism. We're talking about high levels, intellectual brilliance. We're not talking about some stone kissers running around cubes. Is Islam. That wasn't Islam in ancient times. It was something that connected people to some religion, right? Way bigger. Let's show that one dealing with Garvey and talking about forget the NAACP because they're sellouts. The concept of the Holocaust revisionist, denier, or the anti-Semite, or whatever term they're going to use to put on people who are speaking up against this fraud called the Nazis killed the Jews and the Jews are owed some debt and all that stuff, and Hitler was this bad, evil man and all that. So we're not Holocaust revisionists or none of that crazy stuff like that. We also wanted to put up there for the so-called people that are gonna bash and say that we're right. There's that anti-Semite. Oh, let me just do something too. After this guy, because I just realized I'm backed up. So after this guy, after this guy showed this, there's a lot more. We showed that, and then and while we were reading the Drew Ali thing, this was up. The Wall Street in panic and all that stuff while we were reading the Peter Moon. This up, which was the Pan American Conference list of United States quote unquote citizens, quote unquote United States citizens. And we see Drew Ali right here. We see Charles Kirkman Bay right here. Havana, Cuba, etc. We showed Brother Lomax Bey, aka Mohammed Ezaldin, with his Universal Arabic Association. And when I was talking about the flag, I'm talking about this flag back here. Look at this flag right here. This is a Moorish American turned sellout. Start a different organization, just like F.S. Cherry, just like Elijah Poole Bey, just like Fard Muhammad. Everybody else start something different and abandon what Noble Drew Ali brought them that they used to save themselves. All these people right here, they're not saved with Moorish science. He was saved with Moorish science, but he didn't put Moorish science on all these people. He brought some Universal Arabic BS to them. And then we showed Islamic Society of America repping the same flag. How do they have the same flag as Lomax Bey's group, but they have a different name? Or is this part of the whole game to get people more confused? No different than dirty Moors that play people, and then they change the name to a different name, right? And then they play people under that name. When people find out about that game, then they change the name again into something different. Found about that, then they change the name. And what's interesting is people still support, even though we were talking about Lomax Bey having this flag. whoever these people are, having the same flag as Lomax Bay's fraud about birthrights. They might be dressing the part, they might look the part, but if that's their flag, the red flag with the 5-point green star, they got played out of their stuff. I think you should be caught up to everything that was shown. About all these ones with the whole demonize the Nazis, make the Nazis be some evil. They did it in the cartoons by portraying all the evil people as related to Moors, capes, right? Nazi helmets, staffs. Nazi helmet, guns, and all that type of stuff, right? Okay. The skull and bones, which, you know, the Nazis using it wasn't some Masonic whatever. Demonizing. Remember, this is Asiatic symbol. It's not some European logo. This Asiatic. Of all time. Red skull. Batman red skull. Always doing the Nazis be evil when really social reforming. The anti-Germany stuff with Walt Disney. Right, the heroes, right? Islam to Captain Marvel too, Captain Marvel. We also talked about Brother Diaz, who was the Dominican with the ban, and everybody got mad at him, and they you know suspended him at his job and all that stuff because, you know, he's a Nazi and that's violating this and that or whatever. Letting them know what's good, right? That ain't the case. That ain't the case. Talk about the Jews who were Nazis, you know, running from Hitler. Why weren't they running? If anybody should have been running, it should have been these guys. And then the so-called Zionists are going to put it like, oh yeah, those are some compromised Jews that we're working with. Oh no, they knew what was up, right? Because remember that it is said that Hitler knew who the true Jews were. And he knew it wasn't these people that were calling themselves Jews. Right? He knew this. We're talking about the whole 6 million concept. And this idea One sec, Morris. This whole idea of the 6 million Jews, that we go through all these articles, and then you can just go online and, you know, like we were saying, do your own research on how many Jews died, and they always have this reference to 6 million, always. Change when they're talking about this quote unquote genocide of these people. Never changes, always going with this idea of 6 million. And again, you know, we Brother Set and Rabe spoke about this. Let's just really digest, you know, what was going on. Remember, that's 1932, before the stuff. Right? The guzma is a rabbinical concept which is used to express the scale of a catastrophe, the number of Jews who have suffered and or died in terms related to the tales of the written Torah. The concept of the guzma, concepts, an explanation of the tales of Rabba Bar Hannah, in which he mentions and explains it in passing in order to explain one of the Rabba Bar Hannah's veiled stories. Almanac, the world population of Jews increased between 1933 and 1948 from 15,315,000 to 15,753,000. Right? Most Talmudic rabbis believe that Adolf Hitler was an avenging angel who sacrificed 6 million non-believing Jews. Talmudic Jews could take power over the world. See Michael A. Hoffman's excellent works, Judaism Discovered, Strange Gods, for more on the mystical role that the Nazis played in the Talmudic myth. Right, so they created this whole thing. Right? Idea. With the Nationalist Party, you know, went through their demands, which didn't seem too far-fetched, you know, seemed very reasonable, right? There's some more. You had Japanese Nazis. You get this, you know, go back to the sympathizers, right? That were, or go back to the colonists, I mean, that were talking about, you know, blacks being sympathizers with, and we can't have these guys and them get together and all that stuff. And Muhammad Ali saying, forget you guys, I'm not going to go fight my brothers and all that. What did they see to make them say, hey, you know what? We're going to support this man. What did they see? They realized that to violate same foreigners that were probably violating them. right? Just think about it. Just digest it. These guys, bunch of these guys talking about Hail Hitler. And then you have these other people who are, you know, quote unquote Jews or whatever. We're not in support of him. But then there's Jews that are saying, well, we don't know about you guys, but we're in support of him. We're not going in any ovens and all that stuff. Forget that. Hail Hitler. Don't forget who stole the Fez book, Kudjo Adwell. You can go to khalifamedia.com to get that. Everybody knew what was up when Hitler came to town. Just like everybody knew he came to town, what was up. Right? And remember, all these people were volunteers. All these people were volunteers. Themselves. He wasn't a menace to society, and they were siding with him because they didn't want to get what the Jews got. Right? Of their plan. So Germans could get a job. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Abolition of the army and a new people's army in its place. Oh, why a new people's army? Because the army that was in power at the time were a fraud. Why you think his army was everybody? Because the people who had power there were a fraud. Freedom of religion. Why? Because they want to make everybody follow this fake Jew stuff with the original Jews. Sheldon L. again, quote, "The Moor here told me that World War I and World War II were myths, in the same sense that the First World War actually did not end. There was just a pause for a few years between the fighting, so really it was just one war. He also told me that France had been taken over by the Federal Reserve, same one in North America, into Germany, and Hitler was trying to prevent them from coming in. Now, if this is true, it would then make sense that the Nazis were doing salat with Muslims and wearing fezzes and reading the Quran. Being that the Kaisers are descendants of the Moors in the Holy Roman Empire, it makes sense if Hitler said that he only respects Islam as a religion. Salat by Nazis. Nazis doing salat in fezzes on? You think they don't know? You think they didn't know? You think they were on some higher socialism? Why? Because it's no different than when we say when we say we're gonna go to the prison, we're gonna go do a program at the prison, right? So we go to the prison, all the inmates come in, yo, you know, I mean, how you guys doing? Blah, 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 blah. He comes over and he says, hey, whatever over there, if you want something to eat or if you want something to drink or whatever, you know what I mean, feel free. Be wise to go at least have a cup of coffee or tea or something. It would be wise to do that because you're on somebody else's turf. When you go on somebody else's turf, you're not going to be, well, I don't really eat that or I don't really drink that or whatever because you have the mindset, well, this is a prison. Why am I going to eat here and all that stuff? No, these people eat here. I mean, these people want to know some information. They went all over and beyond to make sure that they can connect with the Moors, to make sure that the Moors could come to their little Black History Month or whatever. Right? The inmates made that happen. So why not partake in the festivities with the inmates, eating and drink what they're drinking and cheers with them on their turf? These so-called Nazis were on their own turf, but they were showing how they were willing to sacrifice their own stuff and adopt anybody else's thing for unity. Because they had this problem to deal with in their country that they couldn't deal with on their own. Anybody who was down with them, they supported them 100 to the point of wear fezzes and do salat when they're not even Muslim. They're not even Muslim. They're doing salat though. Again, going back to Brother Sheldon L. Government, it still exists. No one is really working it like that. It is dormant but not dissolved. Very, very similar to our empire being dormant with Moors not exercising it to its fullest. Our perspective is, again, look at the back of the one note. You'll see the Great Seal there with a pyramid on it that has nothing to do with Illuminati, nothing to do with Europeans or whatever. The pyramids. So why won't the people who claim of the pyramid builders claim their governmental seal? Because they've been taught that that belongs to Illuminati, Masons or whatever, and they want to do nothing with it when that's their stuff. Very similar to the Moors in Germany that are coming to the realization that there was a government before this government, and this government's a fraud, so let's tie ourselves back to the old government. What was the old government about? Oh, old government was about fezzes, adopting Islamic culture, doing salat, and not even playing around with this Catholic, Christian, Jewish BS. Science that have put out public notice to be under the Kaiser government know exactly how we put out public declarations. Once under the Kaiser, you become a real German national, pay no taxes, no parking tickets, just like us. The tricky thing is enforcing the treaties. The Federal Republic of Germany will not let that power go without throwing people in jail for not paying taxes. People will just need to go through it to get their freedom. Moors. Don't think that you're going to have some issue and nationality is going to just work because you want it to, or you think that you got some involvement or whatever. It has to do with you better be studying, you better be very, very aware in your mind that if you want to be free, You're taking off the shackles. Nobody's coming with the stuff to be banging, or 2 rocks to be banging your shackles off your ankles or whatever. You better want to get these shackles off your mind. And the only way you do that, again, is get knowledge. Shackles on my mind got released when I saw on Hitler and he's showing all this stuff. I'm like, what? Let me just go check and see how real this thing is. And, you know, here we have the presentation, man with the Drew Ali mustache. That, because again, you know, there was probably about 150 slides or whatever, and we took out about 50 something slides just because some stuff was just, you know what I mean, we really didn't need to go there. We were just going there because we found the info. But we're presenting March 1933, gaining office as Chancellor of Germany, Adolf Hitler gave a frighteningly dark speech on race relations in Germany. Here's what he had to say. I'm very grateful for the many wonderful opportunities to honor African German heroes, faith leaders, entrepreneurs, and many others who changed the course of our nation. We are blessed by the lives and examples of those who have made this nation a beacon of freedom, talent, and unbreakable German spirit. The privilege of visiting the National Museum of African German History and Culture right here in Berlin. It's a new, beautiful museum that serves as a shining example of African Germans' incredible contributions to our culture and history. It also tells of the great struggle of freedom and equality that prevailed against the sins of slavery and the injustice of discrimination, and love of the people who helped create such a masterpiece, the legacy of so many leaders and honors. I left that museum confident that together, Germany can overcome any challenge. Today and every day, I pledge to continue the march toward justice and freedom for all, so that every German, no matter his background, no matter her background, has the chance to climb the great ladder of success. He's some Aryan and he doesn't like the world and all that stuff. People could play like that, but I don't think so at all. I can't go with it. I really can't go with it. And like Brother Sheldon said that, you know, when he found this out and he's over there, this stuff, and he's finding out that, hold on a second, the same here is going on over there, then this Moorish thing is than we even imagine. Islam more, you got something to add in there?
No, I'm just heard that he actually said that speech, bro.
Bro.
He actually said that.
And remember, that was, but remember too, that was when he was chancellor. So he was nobody then. He was only known over there then. You know what I mean? He wasn't.
He was glad to have the opportunity to go and see an African owl.
Like, it's,
you know how much that speaks volumes, bro.
Yo, volumes. That speaks volumes. And then again, when we look at this thing of people that control the world, we can see why they hated this man so much.
You know, you won't hear that, or you won't see or hear that speech on the History Channel. You got you have the History Channel, and they play him all day long. How Russians killing people from Europe and Jews. You will not hear that speech of him going and seeing African Americans in Berlin. Which
which again lets the world know that the Germans know.
Right. And that's why President Obama went to Berlin.
And when he went there and did his speech, how much honors did he get?
Right, exactly.
Right? The Nazis, right? Because again, remember, the whole play is to make people think that he was against but all races, because he was moving towards some European only, you know what I mean, world or whatever. No, he wasn't for that. He was for all people being free. The Black Panthers and say, oh yeah, Black Panthers were about black power for black people. No, he wasn't for yellow power too, and he was for white power, and he was for brown power. Black power only. They weren't just repping for dark-skinned people only. They were repping for everybody who had no power and wanted some.
You still there?
Yeah, more.
I'm going in and out with the beat. So, but I just got a question. I want you to keep going. You know, since we're talking about that, dealing with the flag, and you know, I've been reading the Red Book, and I give thanks to my big brother who let me get that. And in it says, you know, that India and others had this history hidden. It kept this hidden because they're out. And I've been watching a little bit of this India movies like the Gods or whatever, India. And in it, I've seen the swastika. And I wonder what on the swastika and the Moors. Can you go in on that a little?
We'll say, of saying the Moors, it'll make more sense if we say the Asiatics. Right? So when we say the Asiatics, something that everybody who's dark skinned knows. So we go through that in some of the slides in the end where we show the different cultures with the swastika. But recognize that because Hitler himself, right, you know, European, he couldn't use it in its right, which is going the arms, the 90-degree angles going clockwise. So it goes anti-clockwise. Because it wasn't his actual, you know, he doesn't really have jurisdiction. But since he's studying the science, you know, why not gravitate, I mean, what the Asiatics of the world are going to recognize as their stuff to support him. Be against Hitler would be people who are against natural law. The people who are against the natural order of things. Because that symbol is a nature symbol. It's an astrological symbol. That symbol is a scientific symbol. That symbol is a metaphysical symbol. That has nothing to do with some guy that's going around killing people or whatever. Right? So just like them doing salat, wearing fezzes, them having that symbol was for all the nations of the world who were for freedom and respect of people's rights and government and all that stuff, would see him as, okay, he knows what's up. Right? That was that swastika was like the Batman symbol. Put that in the sky and everybody knows, okay, it's about to go down. Let's get ourselves our, you know, SS uniforms and all that stuff and go support our fellow national socialists. This country, right? Ready, but Brother Sheldon again. What people know as Germany today is actually Republic Deutschland, pronounced Bundesrepublik Deutschland, into Federal Republic of Germany, which was a corporate entity created after World War II. What was this creation? Was the Kaiserei, or Kaiser government, Germany. And that is why the present corporate entity is called the Federal Republic of Germany, meaning the Federal Republic belonging to Germany, Republic from Germany. This is not Germany. Sound familiar? Sounds very familiar. Does this sound like a Rothschild puppet to you? Leading circles in English politics wanted the war of the business hoped for under influence of propaganda against the international organized by. I have also made it quite plain that if the nations of Europe are again to be regarded as mere shares to be bought and sold by these international conspirators, then that race, Jewry, which is the real criminal of this murderous struggle, the responsibility. They didn't know what was going down. Zinkyuko. Whatever. Supporter of socialists. It is said that Jews run the financial system, control of the world. Now the royal family, aristocracy, and the equal Jews nobility virtually exist as one and the same organization. Therefore, I am certain the royal house nobility and the financial Jews will lose their power shortly. Who hides behind the curtains and pulls strings without ever revealing their true identity is their forte. And we showed that, they were actually using the sun disk. Right? Negative thing of vultures and stuff like that or whatever. The sciences. Hitler was not a Rothschild British agent. His banker's fortune. Nazis free Rothschild, seize his bank. Edward of England, the Duke of Windsor, had anything to do with it, but his Jewish friend, Austrian banker Baron Louis Rothschild, was released today by the Nazis. But the Rothschild's bank is confiscated. A personal plea to Hitler for the release of Rothschild and others 3 weeks ago, but he was given a rebuff, regretting his inability to comply with the request. For the ones who, say that he was, no. Yeah, he freed Rothschild, but he stole the bank.
Hold on, he had a Rothschild took captive, he captured the Rothschild?
Yeah.
Wow. Why you don't hear this on mainstream? Why you don't hear this?
You don't hear it?
Wow.
Ask the mainstream people who are run by the Zionists.
Right.
Mr. Benjamin Friedman, a Jewish industrialist born in New York, wrote in the Economic Council letter published there in October 15, 1947, these Eastern European Jews have neither a racial nor historic connection with Palestine. Their ancestors were not inhabitants of the Promised Land. They are the direct descendants of the people of the Khazar kingdom. The Khazars were a non-Semitic. Oh, so they're really the anti-Semitics. They call anti-Semitic, they're really the anti-Semitics. A non-Semitic Turco-Mongolian tribe. Mr. Friedman was challenged unwisely by a Zionist objector. He invited his challenger to go with him to the Jewish room of the New York Public Library. There, they could together examine the Jewish Encyclopedia, Volume 1, page 112, 1 to 12. Works of Greats, Dubnow, Friedlander, Raisin, and many other noted Jewish historians, other non-Jewish historians, established the fact beyond all possible doubt how greatly he has sinned against the masses in the course of the centuries, how he has squeezed and sucked the blood again and again. Or we consider how the people gradually learned to hate him for this by regarding his existence as nothing but punishment of heaven for the other peoples. We can understand how hard this shift must be for the Jew. And then there's the map showing the jurisdiction of how took over other people's stuff and have other people their homeland. This is 1946 to 2000. We're in 2018 right now. These little scribbles right here of Palestine is this anymore, right?
Wow.
(1945) Central Germany was overrun by British and American troops. With them followed Dr. Charles Larson, the leading forensic pathologist of America, member of the U.S. War Crimes Investigation Team, and dead bodies in about 20 concentration camps. There were days when investigated some 200 corpses at Dachau concentration camps. He says, never was a case of poison gas uncovered. 200 corpses was a case of poison gas. Dr. Russell Barton, psychiatrist, went to Bergen-Belsen concentration camps with British forces as a young doctor in 1945. In 1985, in Toronto courtroom, under sworn oath, Dr. Barton testified that all deaths in Nazi concentration camps because of illness and not because Nazis deliberately starved them to death. For the Bergen-Belsen camps. Findings report that the inmates died of disease outbreak was to be blamed on typhus. That Germans tried several things to prevent typhus outbreak, like cremating dead bodies, quarantining the sick, and systematic delousing. Is because you have lice, they cut all your hair off. They cut their hair off because, you know, they got them ready for extermination and all that BS. That's why they had no hair.
So pardon me, Sheik. So the propaganda is thick. The propaganda is really, really thick. Enlightening to me, because my whole time I'm thinking they were gassed, they cut off and all that because of something else. And wow. Those gas, they was not killed by even throwing the bodies in the inferno just to get rid of the bodies. That's a torture mechanism.
Right. Now, it wasn't torture mechanism. It was to stop the spread of typhus, because they don't want to get typhus. So yeah, burn the bodies.
Wow.
Because we know fire is gonna kill them diseases or whatever.
Correct.
Right? But again, who are these people? These people are the same people who are running the biggest mind control game on the people right now, using entertainment.
That's right.
Using sports.
That's right.
This is the exact same thing that we're watching. This is the exact same thing. Propaganda at its heights. But this is not on screen. This is not movie or TV show or whatever. It's history that they're using as the TV show to spread the propaganda. Using history as the TV show to spread the propaganda. Holocaust claims a fantastic lie. A fantastic lie. Why? Because everybody bought it. As a result of typhus. Many prisoners with their heads shaved bald. This was an attempt to save their lives, as the lice was epidemic, and lice lives in the hair of its host. If these were death camps, then why bother trying to save them? Seen were the result of prisoners being issued clogs to keep their feet in better shape and was more sanitary. Towards the end of the war, Allied bombings of railroads and other means of transportation prevented food from reaching the prisoners, and many did starve to death, along with the typhus epidemic. If you look closely, you will see that quite a few inmates were in fact not skinny and emancipated, but emaciated, but healthy at the end of the war. Some camps were hit harder than others were. Historian vows to appeal the filed libel case, which branded him a Holocaust denier. David Irving was admitted he cannot afford to cover the bills of his disastrous libel case defeat, but has vowed to fight on. Speaking after Mr. Justice Gray, the judge in the High Court libel action delivered a damning 333-page judgment branding him a Holocaust denier, history, a racist, and anti-Semite. Irving remained totally unrepentant. Speaking from his large apartment in Mayfair, central London, the 62-year-old was highly emotional and admitted he felt tired, very tired. He said he would appeal against the judgment, although it is unclear how he can afford to do so. The bill for costs is already estimated to run him more than pounds. I would describe the judgment in 2 words. Firstly, and secondly, perverse. Why is everyone talking about money? I'm not interested in money. It's all about reputation. If he had sufficient funds to cover the bills, Irving simply no. He remained, I am not at all anti-Semitic. It is not anti-Semitic to be critical of Jews. But the leaders of the Jewish communities around the world horrific methods to try to destroy me. They had bottomless pockets to afford justice and say, go ahead and destroy that bastard, which they just did. Right, David Irving. I went to Auschwitz in 1992 to see for myself this place I had studied for so long. I paid extra for a personal English language tour guide, a young lady named Alicia, who Polish, German, and English. Just so nobody missed the point that I'm Jewish. They hate this Jew boy here, David Cole. They can't stand him because he blew the lid off the whole. He blew the lid off the whole fraud about gas chambers being real, being used to kill Jews. Him speaking is the same thing like what we say with Richard Smith, Peter Moon, and all these Europeans talking up about Moors. And he's telling you that it was BS. David Cole, mad videos on YouTube, been on Maury, been on, you know what I mean, all these talk show people or whatever like that, Larry King, whoever, you name him, he's been on it, talking about this same stuff. And remember, he's a Jew, right? That, oh yeah, you know, what it's about.
Right.
Hitler, the National Socialist, against people who study Talmud or Kabbalah or whatever. You know, the Zionist Jews of Harlem were Moors, so we're not hating on some. We're hating on some Khazars. We're hating on some fake Jews. People who stole Hebrew Israelites' birthright and Hebrew Israelites playing around like, what's going on? David Cole with Alicia at the Auschwitz camp or whatever. Here in front of the gas chamber, I asked Alicia about the authenticity of that building. Let's start again talking about this building here. Alicia, this is a crematoria, Cole, but this is a reconstruction. Alicia, it is in its original state. Now there, Alicia is very clearly representing the gas chamber as being in its original state. Once inside, I asked her specifically about the holes in the ceiling. Original 4 holes in the ceiling, Alicia, it is original. Though this chimney was dropped through this chimney, Zyklon B. So here, that it was the first suggested that I meet with the head of archives and senior curator, Dr. Francisek Piper. Still fearing that such a meeting might not come about and assuming that the supervisor was probably in the loop regarding any instructions, I decided to get her input regarding the supposedly original holes in the ceiling. Holes in the ceiling? No. They've been rebuilt, yes. After the war? Remember, the victors are the ones who tell the story. Were the quote-unquote Zionists. Remember that what they said, that the royal family are one and the same. They're not separated. The same. Robert Forreston. Gas chambers and the alleged genocide of the Jews constitute one and the same historical lie, which made possible a gigantic financial political fraud, the principal beneficiaries of which are the State of Israel and the international Zionism. Victims are the German people, but not their leaders and the entire Palestinian people. They were doing. Of evidence, together with the book by Graff and Matogno, show that Treblinka II could never have been anything but an ordinary and modest Durchgangsslager. That is a transit camp for Jews to Majdanek, other concentration and labor camps to the south or east. The lie of Auschwitz, the crude lie of Treblinka belongs therefore in the trash can of history. Auschwitz and concentration and labor camps belong in the trash can of history. The trash can of history.
Wow, that's deep.
Mind-blowing. Right? We talked about that, the Operation Paperclip, when they said, oh yeah, the Nazis didn't lose because they stole all the Nazi whoever's and brought them to whatever. Well, hey, everybody who you see on the list, just go check the list of all the so-called Operation Paperclip doctor operators that they brought over here, and you realize that all of them have Jewish names. Majority of them have Jewish names. They have German names if the Nazis that they brought out of here. And remember what they said up here too, that the principal beneficiaries of which are the State of Israel and international Zionism, full victims are the German people, but not their leaders. So even so-called Hitler had infiltration. People that they snuck out of Germany that were quote unquote Jews were classified as German scientists, but they weren't German. Were these same Khazars, the same fraud. Khazars, the ADL and other Zionist groups and governments are desperately fighting to keep these facts under wraps. Remember, enormous reparations are still being paid to Israel by Germany and exaggerated fables and legends. Of course, people died in these camps. Of course, a lot of wrongdoing took place. But facts are, a single person was gassed, not one. The Lucher report. 1988, Fred Lucher Jr., like most Americans, basically accepted the Holocaust extermination story. In itself, that remarkable, except also just happens to be the foremost American expert on gassing and gas chamber technology. As readers of this journal know, Fred Lucher was commissioned in early 1988 by German-Canadian publisher Ernest Zundel, a thorough forensic investigation of the alleged wartime gassing facilities in Poland for his defense in the case in the Toronto Holocaust trial. Make sure you look that up. The Ernest Zundel Holocaust trial that happened in Toronto. Right? Zundel was so sure that the Holocaust gassing story would not stand up to expert examination to Europe at considerable expense that an independent investigation would confirm the revisionist view. In early 1988, carefully investigated the so-called gas chambers. At first, the Auschwitz main camp, second, the Auschwitz-Birkenau camp, supposed to have been the most terrible Nazi extermination center, and third, camp near Lublin, where the Allies claimed at Nuremberg that 1.5 million people were killed. As an expert witness testifying under oath in April 1988 in the second Zundel trial and his published report of his on-site investigation, Fred Lucher explained in detail that the supposed gas chambers at Auschwitz and Majdanek could not possibly have been used to gas people as alleged. And he still went with it, that those were some gassing chambers.
Wow.
Now, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Such was the motivation of Indians who took up with the German military during the Second World War. Driven by a burning desire in their homeland, 3,000 Indian expats living in the Third Reich, along with volunteers from POW camps, joined the brigade. And there they are. And we made the statement in class about 5 on the left, 2 on the what?
Go.
All right. So you think that these people that was wearing turbans around here, that when they see Asiatics and all that stuff, they don't know what's up? Gods and earths do that same thing with their fingers? That? Because I'm pretty sure before a nation of gods and earths fool you that that's their stuff.
So pardon me, Sheik. So all that gas and all that propaganda, that's just been a lie. It's just been false.
Bro, fraud. Fraud. Up and down, all over, fraud.
Wow, crazy. That's crazy. Well, childality of some people.
For real.
And it's sick because a lot of people fell hook, line, and sinker for that.
Yeah, they fell for the okie doke. You know, and again, you know, if there's some people who died or whatever, not taking nothing away from people who died there. Stories that they're telling, it doesn't really add up to really what. So certain things not making any sense right now. We're seeing all these Punjabis and all these, you know what I mean, Jews and all these people down with the Nazis. Why would they be down with them if they're so evil and they're so trying to kill everybody on the planet? Right? Indians protest use of swastika. Dissension arose today in the Hopi Indian tribe over use of the swastika in basket and blanket weaving. Chief John Joy Siki, what kind of Hopi Indian name is, placed his signature along with those of Papago, Navajo, and Apache leaders on a proclamation declaring they no longer would use it has been desecrated recently by another nation of peoples. Are they part of the fraud? To have the so-called Hopi and the Navajo and whoever abandon their birthright and then go do some dummy treaties with some who are not in this land. Right. So when you look at the like you see Tibet is going the way that the Nazis go. You see the Jewish ones going the way that the Nazis go. And then when you see the other ones, they're going the other direction. See the Aztecs going the opposite. Forget that, we're repping both of them. Right? The Free Indians Legion or Tiger Legion. Voluntary. Why are they volunteering to work with Hitler? Why are they volunteering? Because they're Hindu nationalists. Because they're National Socialists of India. National Socialists of Pakistan. Of Ceylon. National Socialists of Hindustan. So So they supported because they knew what was going down. Anti-Comintern Pact, where they actually had a pact that they're going to be united against this beast that was trying to take over their country. That he needed the help. And people backed him, gave him the support.
It's unity.
The United because they don't know what's up. You think they think some Aryan BS like certain people think when you mention Hitler?
They don't.
Like
my prophet said, he's a universal prophet. He just came to us because we needed him.
We needed him the most. And there's some more. A lot of them the same ones, but just showing that, this is not some, exclusive Hitler symbol, exclusive Nazi symbol. Right? No wonder the Japanese would rep him. That's their symbol too.
Right.
No wonder the Turks would rep.
I see how all of it goes together. You see it in the flag. Like Russian flag is red, China flag is red, Nazi Party flag, so-called Germany, was red. Our American flag, red.
Right, the uniting of Asia. All Asiatics are gonna, and those who are in tune with the science of the Asiatics, they're gonna get on board too.
Indeed.
Just because it's the right thing to do, especially from a spiritual perspective. You can get this book or any information on Sabha, Indian revolutionary. Right, that was going up against the empire. Do the same stuff that the Ashkenazis were trying to do. The same thing that they were trying to do in India. Only on the soil of sacrifice and suffering, a national edifice. Right? So while he was trying to get the Britons he was connecting with Germany. He was connecting with Japan. He was making allies. Because the same rabid dog that bit me, bit you. So why don't we work together to get rid of this rabid dog? Put that dog down. Right? Ancient Hindu, Ghana. The whites have carried people they could carry. The plagues of the world, materialism, fanaticism, alcoholism, and syphilis. Since what these people possessed on their own was superior to anything we could give them themselves, the sole result of the activity of the colonizers is they have everywhere aroused hatred. When people attempt to rebel against the iron logic of nature, conflict with the very same principles to which they owe their existence as human beings. Their actions against nature must lead to their own downfall. Technology and commerce, only as long as an idealistic national community offers the necessary preconditions, not lie in material egoism, but in a spirit of sacrifice and joyful renunciation. What are they renouncing? Why would renunciation be joyous? Because you're renouncing the fraud to get back to your stuff.
Right.
Another book, Indian Soldiers in Germany and Italy. Intelligence and Security Training Group, Special Police Group. Top right is a uniformed member of the German police. First left, Chopra, third right in plain clothes, is a member of the Gestapo. Note the Indian soldier standing in the back row. Second left is wearing something or the other, army marksmanship lanyard. In Asia, the swastika is a centuries-old symbol of peace and auspiciousness associated with religious belief. Swastikas appear in many Asian temples, similar to the use of a cross in Christian churches. And Westerners appropriate all sorts of political symbols from abroad and in their fashion without major international critique. Many are quick to add, so why should Asia take all the flack? Why is this different from the West's obsession with Che Guevara? What the West considers to be Satan is in fact God. Original Jewish people are not evil people. Right, looking like a Japanese Morpheus or something. A photograph of the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem reviewing the Nazi Hanzar SS division in Yugoslavia in 1944. Muslim troops. The Mufti put Islam and Nazism, claiming there were considerable similarities, Islamic principles, and National Socialism. Why didn't he call it Nazism? And there's the fort. And that circle part at the top, it looks like. They say in Wewelsburg is a quote-unquote Renaissance castle. Anytime they say Renaissance, you know they're talking about the Moors. They say Renaissance, referring to the Moors. Moors, that was the revisiting of the presentation that we did for Noble Juali Day for the Moors in Canaanland. Something that I didn't get to do, that I forgot to do. We want to send a big Islam to Brother Yasun and Brother Kenta Bay for their of the raffle items. We probably had about 500 notes. Yeah, say about 500 notes raffle donations. Those Moors went into there and, you know, some presents for the Prophet, and we're gonna give them away. Right? So I wanted to say, we didn't get to say it that day, but I wanted to put it out. Islam to those Moors, putting up items, which amazing items, speakers and jackets and watches and mad stuff. So Islam to all the Moors. Brother Supreme, you still there? Chasing them babies around. So tomorrow, doing our class. We're going to be doing our class tomorrow. 1 o'clock, right here, same back channel as before the 2-week break. Want to say Islam to all the Moors that were in the chat, Moors who held down the Mufti post in the chat and chased whoever was trying stuff. But, you know, they don't really come around our chat too much because they already know what they're going to get. The Sheldon L, for his studious work that he did in, you know what I mean, about this two-prong. We never even think that was going on over there, but now we know, right? You there, More?
I'm here. I just wanted to put it on mute for a second. So yeah, I'm here.
It's all good. Yeah, yo. I just want to know if you had any closing, remarks, thoughts, or whatever.
I'm gonna throw something out there tonight. Everybody I first want to thank Prophet Ali for making us fall or having us to fall so we can get back up where we fell on our square, back up and stand in our square. More in the chat. Like I say, it's a beautiful day to be alive. You know what I'm saying?
Islam to that.
My big brother,
for real. Islam, man.
Again, no worries. That countdown will be up and uploaded tonight. It's very special. Trust me.
So you gotta. So countdown is good.
Thank you for that look last night. I really appreciate that look because I was trying to stop. Right?
Oh yeah. When I got it, I was like, oh man, I hope it's not too late. I hope it's not too late. Without it. But yeah, good, yo. Yeah. That should be a good one. That's a good trio that they got there. You know what I mean?
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Great. Got to put this up there.
Yeah, that's another.
Countdown will be. I want to thank everybody for joining and listening. I'll be listening out for you tomorrow, More, and on the Q&A this week, will we Canaanland more?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, we could probably do something Tuesday.
Okay,
yeah, we'll do something Tuesday.
I'm looking forward to my sheet.
Islam, right? And like we said, you know what I mean? Like Brother Najib said, week. You know what I'm saying? We got to get a lot in this week. You know what I mean? To get those that are on the frequency down. If you're not on the frequency, it ain't no worries. We're not mad. We're not hating. We don't really care. Frequency. You know what I mean? All we're looking at is those who are on the frequency, those who fed up of the BS, and they realized the Negro, black, colored, African, whatever stuff don't work. We need to change this frequency. Moors, Islam to everybody that was viewing today. All the master teachers that have, pride and came out and started saying the truth about people. And of course, honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, being that beacon light to see, how much we need to do, how much work needs to be done, and to be an inspiration for us to know that the work can be done. Like Brother Sheldon said in the chat, all this is a rebirth. All we have to do is reinvigorate what's already. If you got any questions, new people, whoever, Canaanlandguide@gmail.com. Canaanlandguide@gmail.com. Don't forget also rvbaypublications.com, Moorish civilletter.net, Brother Abdullah El Talib Mozi Bey, Duke of Tears, Alim El Bey, all the Moors who are studious and studying and putting out information. Moorish American 720, Brother Mario, Brother Rami Salam El, pardon the interjection, all the Moors who have a body politic and they're working towards some type of, whatever, Brother Rami El Bey and Cali, all the Moors who are using whatever it is method that they can find to get this word out, all the Moorish MCs, all the Moorish singers, Moorish poets, authors, website builders, whatever you're doing, Islam to you, Drew Ali has been represented for the past 6 days. Trust that Noble Drew Ali is looking at us active Moors and saying, Moors, good job. So we'll just do our closeout with some Iron Sheik, Moorish Master MC. We definitely will that you have and rest of the night. And know that nationality and birthrights, you're pretty much there. Moors, peace and love. And we got this. Know that we got this.
All right, peace and love, Sheik.
Peace, more. Islam.
Leather feathers. Right? Telling you. You used to see these regular. Yeah. Right? Leather feathers. Right? Leather feathers. Leather feathers. X-Clan. Yeah. Right? R.I.P. Sugar Shine too. Moorish MC, avalanche flow, watch your floaters and rhyme chunks. All I see in dress code today is bike pumps. Pants off your ass, but you're wearing a belt, but don't use it. Take it off, give you welts like dad used to do it. Black with no autopsy, no knowledge of self. Had me in stores, raiding clothes racks and store shelves. I'm from Tobago, never fell for Santa and elves. R.I.P. Gummer, and those murdered by sickle and cells. Big up the thunder, never charge me for one beat. And that's the MO of all producers that keep it unique. They know I don't keep truth discreet. Flow force abundant, lyrics won't deplete. Can't retreat now, I made it too far. Wild corny rappers still only write rhymes in 16 bars. I'm at since that's how execs brainwash subjects. Multi-dimensional MC underground like subjects. Now the blown up picture is Noriega putting up the 5 and the 2, just like the Moors put up the 5 and the 2. This CNN, Noriega, gangster rappers, thug drug money rappers. Go right now, go into the tape, the little tape thing with the drawer, pull out the tape, unravel the insert, and then read the credits. This is a big CD. This is a big underground CD. CNN
Moorish MC, not a poet, not a rapper. On tracks, vocals, gun, beretta, tongue clapper. Real as can be. I'm not a rapping actor like your favorite Ashkenazi, more spit and drink a Sprite after. Won't teach you the law. And when he gets captured, he will get out like 3 strikes to back catchers. But you can't get out, being you awarded a crown. Man got straight deny you due process in Moorish gown and sashes. All laws divine, he man's is average. Power of thought got God's acting like a savage. Color of law got the savage playing God's position. Then savages pray the stars so ancestors won't listen. So colonizers dissing, piss and tell you it's raining. Program your children and try to tell you they're failing. Some of you need concentration camps, you don't think. Eating animal parts uncooked, it still looks pink. In order to climb charts, rappers accept exec wings. They only give you a deal cause your whack and flow stinks. Trust me, you like the exec wings, and I think that you got a deal cause your flow stinks, nigga.
You got turban on, with the jewel, right?
Yeah.
So Muhammad Ali's on it, Yasin Bey's on it, Sprague is on it, Kudjo's on it, Swiss Beats is on it, Nori's on it, Nas on it, Flavor Flav's on it, Snoop's on it. Look at the jewel. Look at the jewel. Sisters, real Roxanne. Right? Look at real Roxanne with her feathers with the tassel on there, right there. It's real Roxanne. Everybody knows real Roxanne. Yeah. Kia Beats. Yo, Kia, what up? I used to be scared of pigs, judges and wigs, authority abusers, inside tinted cruisers. Pull out batons, get Negroes head crack on. Stuff vests with drug notes they stole from a thug's coat. Thugs buy pitch drugs and never get caught up. Use trade tricks, these servants are made dicks. Have the front lines with dummies that know no law, to make you assume that they know no law. Smarter than a 5th grader, rights violators, oaths and badges, but I can so savage. No intellect to object or interject. Civilly dead passes all get intercept. Foul balls get caught, Negro leaders swinging and missing deliberate. Your head they deliver it to the fucking pharaoh, dressing like your ancestors. Study more. Don't be fooled by the leaders, saying they black, taking yellow envelopes, weighing their stacks, sold you out to the lodge, and government corpses sacrifice their own to their pale guard bosses. Don't be fooled by the leaders, saying they black, taking yellow envelopes, weighing their stacks, sold you out to the lodge, and government corpses sacrifice their own to their pale guard bosses. More's been telling, never to the point of yelling, like black power, coward slaving, never rebelling, backstabber, all talk, never killed a cracker. Kill their own like overseers for slave master. Kill their own mentally, not a physical death, not in full life, only simply dead is left. If you went right, you look up to a conscious diet, abandoning birthrights for a monstrous fight they're not prepared for, cause you don't study. Lack of mental exercise, yet mind's water sluggy. Savior waiting, when Drew said save yourself and learn to love, instead stop hating. Shelves filled with black books calling us Moors, no need for 4-legged beasts mauling us Moors, cause status sets the stage like a costume ball banquet. Suffocate devils with a Baphomet blanket. More on my vessel, not anchor but anchor. We civilized sellouts will tell you we conquered and got everything handed down like a sofa. But Europe comes from a Moorish Queen Europa. America comes from Morocco, not Vespucci. Egypt is America in Illuminati movies. Bruce Almighty used Morgan Freeman as God to prove black can't be, so stop living a fraud. Wake up, can't you see your own sold you out? Wake up. Can't you see your own sold you out? Wake up. Can't you see your own sold you out? That's what Moore's been telling you about. Don't be fooled by the leaders, saying they black, taking yellow envelopes, weighing they stacks, sold you out to the lodge and government quarters, sacrifice their own to their pale guard bosses. Don't be fooled by the leaders, saying they black, taking yellow envelopes, weighing they stacks, sold you out to the lodge and government quarters, sacrifice their own to their pale guard bosses. Yeah, Noble Drew Ali told y'all, you're not Negro, black, colored. So anybody selling you that, know that they're selling y'all out. Anybody selling you that, know that they're selling you out. Kia, what up? 30 more say the prophet's name won't teach the same universal lessons, keep you slave chains on your brain. Wanting Moorish presidents, well that's the prophet. If he was around, most grand sheiks' heads he'll off it. Guilty by association, off your head too for riding with dirty Moors that made a mockery of Drew Ali. Dirty Moors from Canaanland to Cali, used to be LB, now they claim Ali. Keep thinking that they for you, but get ignored, giving lessons in pieces like a jigsaw. Leave you puzzled, your third eye muzzled, mind smuggled. Know how to say the right thing, keep lies subtle. Reel you in with truth bait, lying eyes and truth face. Ego Moors make you carry their suitcase or hold their umbrella. He walks like a fruitcake, prophet watching from the soul plane. The route you take, whose prince will you step in? Demons or genuines, MSTA members or Moorish Americans? None of you know every prophet and I keeping you away. They have a deep, dirty Moor crew causing confusion. This dirty Moor crew will tell you partial to have chains on your brain when it should be parcel, a free national name. Drew Ali got revenge by Moors eyes wide open. Not Morisco world eyes wide open. For her to make those lips clap. Using Frank, Gary, Brother Larry, journalist traps. Homoerotic, stray cat Moors dissing the mothers, putting blame on active Moors for foreign games and others. Fake prophets, heads on the coin, and pictures next to the noble. Today the treasury balance is zero, the total. Study, when you finish, study yourself. Dirty Moors judge your attire and judge your bookshelf. Study, when you finish, study the lower. When you study no trance by Moorish hymn composers. Study, when you finish, study the higher. Dirty Moors cook out death smell from Oscar Mayer. Study, when you finish, it's never finished. Dirty Moors selling status correction clinics. 500 for class pass. I'd rather watch Taj and have a clear perspective on the Moorish path. Faculty and student, Moorish heritage history school. Don't endanger